Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. Do the same with the Grizzly Gentleman, 10% off at checkout on your fantastic beard products. Or you could shop via the TCG Player affiliate link in the description down below to help support the show. And last but of course not least, you can go to Grey Viking Games with the affiliate link below to pillage some sweet arena codes. What is up, Planeswalkers? Theric back for more Magic the Gathering Arena. Today I have 3 more deck lists for you. These are all historic decks that try and take advantage of the Kaldheim set. These are some of the decks that I will be playing earliest on the channel because I think they're interesting, and I essentially came up with these decks myself with a ton of help from members on the Discord, link in the description by the way, if you would like to see your deck be played. The easiest way to do that, honestly, is to let me know on Discord. So, the first deck we have here is White Weenie. This is a mono-white aggressive strategy that uses essentially a tiny curve to try and murder your opponent before they get to do anything. The main issue here is I've never made a White Weenie deck. So it's possible that I made this incorrectly. However, one of the things that I do kind of know about White Weenie is that you want to have a ton of 1-drops, and your 1-drops want to, generally speaking, have 2 power, or do some extra stuff. So with that in mind, let's hop into it. We have 3 Cartouche of Solidarity. Now, why is this worth running? The reason I think this is worth running is because it is technically a 2-power 1-drop. The issue, obviously, is that you already have to have a 1-drop in play, hence the reason why we're only playing 3 of them. It gives our Enchanted Creature First Strike, which is great. It essentially is a 1-drop that has half of its power be haste, and of course it comes with an additional creature which we can use for other parts of this deck. We have 3 Code Spell Clerics. This is one of the new cards from Kaldheim that I think might fit this deck really well. Generally, it's just a 1-mana 1/1, which is not what we're looking for. However, if it's the second spell you cast in a given turn, then you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Notably, what this means is either this could be a 1-mana 2/2 with Vigilance, which is pretty good, or it can be a 1-mana 1/1 with Vigilance that essentially has one of its power have haste because you can give it to the 1-mana spell that you play turn 1. A very common sequence with White Weenie decks is that you play a 1-drop on turn 1 and then 2 1-drops on turn 2, followed by a powerful 3 or a 2 and another 1 on turn 3. So that's a common sequencing. So we're relatively likely to have scenarios where we're playing Cold Spell Cleric and buffing something relevant. Then I have 4 Dauntless Bodyguards. This is a 1-mana 2/1, kind of the stats we're looking for, that allows me to potentially protect something stronger or more important. So if Dauntless Bodyguard is the first card being played, oh well, it's just a 1-mana 2/1. However, if I play it later in the game, I can protect my Luminarch Aspirant or my Thalia or my Benalish Marshal, cards that are much more worthy of that protection than kind of any of our other cards. We have 3 Legion's Landing. This is only a 1-mana 1/1. It does have lifelink, which is sure whatever. But what's great about Legion's Landing, obviously, is the fact that if we attack with 3 more creatures, we get to flip the Legion's Landing. Now, as I said, one of the ideas for White Weenie is that you kind of just flood the board with 1-drops. So you're relatively likely to quickly flip a Legion's Landing. And with that flip, you'll be able to then have a land, so you're kind of ramping yourself. But with that land, you're going to have some nice advantage, being able to kind of get extra bodies on the ground when you run out of gas, which is something that can happen to Mono White Weenie. Next, we have 3 Loyal Pegasus. This is essentially just a 1-mana 2/1 that flies. The issue is that it can't attack or block alone. So it's the weakest 1-drop to play on turn 1. Because you can't attack with it on turn 2. Could be something else. I considered Ishimaru, but I felt that the fact that it was legendary, I just didn't want to have to deal with hands that were clunky because of legendary creatures. We'll talk about that a little more in a second. 4 Usher the Fallen. This is a 1-mana 2/1 with Boast. It's a 1-mana 2/1 that essentially acts as a Legion's Landing. Or Danto the First Fort, or whatever it's called. It essentially acts as one of those. Absolutely fantastic for our purposes. We run out of cards. We still have access to make more creatures. Then we get to the 2-drops. These are all 1-drops. We get to the 2-drops. We have 4 Adanto Vanguard. I considered the Hollow Blade, I think, is the other 2-mana, big attack creature. But the reason I didn't select that one is because in order to give it indestructible, you have to discard a card, which is not necessarily something that a white Weenie deck wants to do. However, paying 4 life doesn't matter to a white Weenie deck because you plan on killing your opponent. So the idea is you just attack with this, and you don't care. It doesn't block very well, but who cares? We don't plan on blocking. We have 3 Basri Solidary. If we are going the route of like turn 1, 1-drop, turn 2, 2 1-drops, turn 3, we play another 1-drop, then Basri Solidary, that's +4 power from just a sorcery, and 3 of that will be haste, essentially. So I think Basri Solidary makes a lot of sense. I considered the Rally the Ancestors? I'm not entirely sure. No, I can't remember exactly what the card was, but it was a 2-mana instant from Ixalan that gives your team +1/+1 or +2/+2 if you have the City's Blessing. I didn't think that it was as good as Solidarity. I could be wrong there. Let me know if you play White Weenie more frequently, and you know whether or not I kind of made the wrong choice there. We have then for Clarion Spirit, more Kaldheim cards. For what it's worth, I did try to more or less maximize my Kaldheim cards in this deck. So we had 2 mana 2/2. Not technically great, you know, it doesn't technically do a ton, but whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature struck with flying. So this can create more bodies when we cast second spells. And for what it's worth, I haven't gotten to test this deck yet. This is why it's just a deck tech. I'm a little worried that the cast 2 things are going to run out of gas very quickly in a white Weenie deck, but I don't know, so I have to try it. We have 4 Luminarch Aspirants. There were many other 2-drops I considered, but I kept coming back to Luminarch Aspirant just because of how nicely she's able to help the deck scale, because she's going to be able to, you know, turn 1 you play like a Legion's Landing or Usher the Fallen or something. Turn 2 you play Luminarch Aspirant. You make the creature bigger. That isn't like you make not Aspirant bigger the first turn. Second turn you can make Aspirant bigger, but like she's just a really nice way of constantly upping your board without using cards. Then we have 3 Thalia Guardian of Thraben. I only chose 3 because it's legendary. I look. This deck is running no main deck non-creatures. Oh, excuse me, I'm dumb. It has enchantments. And it's Basri Solidarity. Alright, shut up. Ignore everything I said. I am Garbo. It has it has very few main deck non-creatures. It has 33 creatures, shut up. And I was like, this seems fine. It will hopefully help against board wipes. Like, that's the reason it's in the deck, is I didn't want to put Unbreakable Formation in the main deck. I didn't want to spend 3 mana for Redain to help against board wipes. I wanted something that was relatively cheap that helped. I considered, as well above Loyal Pegasus, I considered running Selfless Savior, but Selfless Savior has 1 power. So I didn't like the idea necessarily. But yeah, hopefully Thalia will help out. She also has 2 power and First Strike, so that's cool. But she's mostly here to protect against board wipe. And then 4 Benalis Marshals. This card is literally just, my creatures get big. That's about it. Going into the mana base, we have 18 lands. This is our curve, right? 21 drops, 18 2-drops, and 4 3-drops. Like, only a playset of 3 drops. Nothing higher than that. So I think that 18 is the correct number of lands. I could be wrong. Again, I don't play aggro very often, so I don't know. We're running 14 plains, and then 4 Sunscorched Deserts. Now, this could be bad, because we want to make sure that we have 3 white pips on turn 3. The issue is that the mana base calculator that I use hasn't been updated with Kaldheim yet, so it refuses to work with these cards. So it's possible that I can't just have Sunscorched Desert, but the idea essentially is that this is a little bit of extra reach in a mono white deck. Onto the next deck, we have Demons. Specifically, this is a Demonic Deals mid-range combo deck. The idea of this deck essentially is you're going to be playing a decent mid-range deck that happens to utilize a lot of demons, but you have the ability to win with Liliana's Contract. So let's just go through the deck. Oh my goodness, I forgot to talk about the sideboard. I'm so sorry. Ignore the last few minutes. We have 3 Daxos Blessed by the Sun. It's a 2 mana, 2 power creature. but the idea is hopefully we'll have plenty of toughness on this, but it's just to help in the race. If we're going against another aggro deck, especially like red aggro, we want to be able to have a little bit extra for the race. We have 4 Remorseful Clerics. Remorseful Cleric, I've talked about in like Death and Taxes contexts, but in Death and Taxes, you're fine with playing non-creatures. You don't love it, but you're fine. In White Weenie, you want to maximize the number of creatures you're playing, because you never want to not be pressuring your opponent. So when I was thinking, okay, my sideboard does need Graveyard Hate, what is it that I'm going to use? And I figured Remorseful Cleric was the best choice because it doesn't cost a lot. It doesn't cost mana to use. It is an evasive threat. Like, it's not great, but it's still an evasive threat. And you get to just exile all cards from your opponent's graveyard at once. Obviously, you have to lose an attacker to do so, but the fact that you can just use this at any point that you need to makes this card absolutely worth it in my eyes. Then I have 3 Ronom Unicorn. I felt like we needed an artifact and a chant removal, but I was like, I don't want to play like Disenchant or whatever it is we have, Revoke Existence. I didn't want to play those because they weren't creatures, and we don't have Leonin Relic Warder, so I went with Ronom Unicorn. And we have 3 Unbreakable Formation against a deck that's just running a ton of board wipes. Not even sure if this is technically worth running, but maybe it is. And then 2 Conclave Tribunal. It takes away from our aggression, but I figure sometime we just might need this. I could be super wrong. It's also possible that you splash green for Heroic Intervention instead of this. And then you have, like, instead of Ronom Unicorn, you could potentially run the Dryad. She wouldn't be great. But, like, I could see a world where you splash green. The issue is, like, you have to put your mana, you have to increase the lands you have. Your curve is probably going to increase slightly, so that's why I did stick with 1 color. Anyway, Demons. 3 Bloodchief's Thirst as removal. Remember, this essentially is a mid-range deck with a potential combo finish. And to that end, we have 3 Bloodchief's Thirst because it is essentially, in my eyes, right now, because we don't have like a lot of fetches, it is the best 1-mana removal because it scales. 3 Thoughtseize, we're playing a black mid-range deck. Obviously, we're going to be playing Thoughtseize. 4 Dream Devourer. This is a 2-mana demon that allows us to foretell a Liliana's Contract. And essentially, we're paying on rate, but we get to play the Liliana's Contract for only 3 mana, 1 black, which could allow us to cast other demons the same time that we cast it, or cast a Bloodchief's Thirst, or like Thoughtseize beforehand, or something like that. Things like that. So I figured Dream Devourer is potentially helpful. The main issue, obviously, is the fact that it's a 0/3, so it doesn't add much to a board when we're, playing mid-range. 2 Immershroom Raiders. I don't love this card, but the reason I play this card is because of the fact that we might, like, need to filter our draws. Like, if we're in a situation where, like, we're in a matchup that we know we can only win with the combo, we might need to be like, okay, the mid-range styling's not going to work. Get rid of a mid-rangey card and get a more aggressive card. 3 Bedevils. It's removal. It's an artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Seems decent. Why do I have a breed in this? Okay. 2 Embodiment of Agonies. You might notice, for what it's worth, that there are a lot of 2, 3s, and even 1-ofs in this deck. It's because of the wording on Liliana's Contract. I wanted to play as high a variety of demons as possible, while still maintaining, like, the power level of the demons that I'm playing. So we got 2 Embodiment of Agonies. This can theoretically, like, we have an okay distribution, but it theoretically is just an okay flyer. That's kind of it. Varagoth Bloodsky Sire is, a 3-mana 2/3 with Death Touch, so it can hold the board relatively nicely. Obviously, it can't block Questing Beast, which is a problem because it has only 2 power. But it is just kind of an annoying blocker and an annoying attacker, because you can go ahead and search your library for, like, a Liliana's Contract or something, or you can search it for removal if you really need it, etc., etc. You can, combo the boast ability with Immershroom Raider so that you can, boast and then you play Immershroom Raider, discard some nonsense to draw that card immediately. Obviously, it's very mana intensive, but we are running 25 lands, so I tried to think of these different lines as I was building the deck. We have Carter, Doomscourge. This card, it can force your opponents to attack, which isn't always necessarily great. It's until your next turn creatures your opponent's control attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. Obviously, they're not going to be able to attack another player, so they have to attack you. But I figure that it's probably fine to have this as a one of. Whenever an attack creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That includes our opponent's creatures, so the idea is like this is probably helpful-ish against the aggressive decks. So maybe I should have put an additional one on the sideboard. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it can help us against aggro by gaining us life, and it can help us against control by hurting them. We have 3 Nightmare Shepherd. This card is actually great in this deck because we don't care a ton about cards being in our graveyard. Obviously, like, there's 2 Embodiment of Agonies, but generally speaking, we don't care. And this allows us to kind of maintain our demon presence on the board in order to trigger that Liliana's Contract. We have 2 Spawn of Mayhems. If we attack, obviously, with an Immerstrom Raider, then it means that we can go ahead and play a Spawn of Mayhem on 3 instead of something else. So that's quite nice. But the fact that it does hurt us could be an issue. 2 Doom Whisperers. This can Surveil too, but you'll notice at this point already, we have a lot of life loss. You know, Thoughtseize. Someone else had life loss. What? Shut up. It's Thoughtseize. We got the lands that hurt us. We got this that hurts us. Spawn of Mayhem that hurts us. Doom. Oh, and I guess this too. So you know we have a lot of things that hurt us, but it's also just like a 5 mana 6/6 Flampler. Seems decent. 3 Liliana's Contract. If we're gonna go the combo route, I figure we have to run at least 3 of these cards. The issue is that they're a 5 mana do nothing. Sure, you get to draw 4, but you also like lose 5 life. So against an aggro deck, you just don't want this card in hand. Which is once again nice with Immerstrom Raider because you can just discard this card if you're against aggro. So, 2 Burning Room Demons. This allows us to just get things. If we're in a situation where we need to find some removal, then we can grab like Bedevil plus Bloodchief's Thirst, and then our opponent will get 1 of us. It's you know, it's a 6 mana flyer that searches. Who knows? Who cares? Then we got a mana base. This is what I like to call a mana base. We have Castle Lochthwain, and then the rest is just a mana base. I don't know. It's 25 lands. In our sideboard, we have 2 Abrades against the artifact matchup. We have 2 Cleansing Wildfire. I am a little afraid of the tree, so I figure we should have something against the tree. 2 Feed the Swarm against enchantments. Technically speaking, we could probably do 1 Abrade and 3 Feed the Swarm because of the fact that we do have main deck Bedevils. We could. This is just how I did it. 3 Crippling Fears. We get to name Demon and destroy other creatures, which is just, it's great. 3 Leyline of the Void. We're in black, and I want to get rid of graveyard decks. It's possible I should do like 2 Leyline of the Void and like 1... what the hell is that card called? Cling to Dust. There we go. 1 Rakdos Showstopper. This is mainly for the meme. I knew that if I didn't put this in, people would be upset with me. But also, it can help against like more mid-rangey or big creature decks. So, and then of course 2 Thought Distortion against control. Our last deck is Control Foretold. This is just a blue-white control deck that happens to run a large amount of Fortell cards. So first thing to notice is 26 lands. JK, the first thing to notice is we have no 2-drops. Oftentimes you'll see a couple of Search for Azcanta, or you'll see Censor. Censor's a big one. But the reason we don't have any 2-drops here is because I needed to make room. I took Censor out and I was like, I realized we don't have any 2-drops. And then I realized if we're going to be foretelling, we're probably going to be foretelling on 2 every single time. So that's the idea with this. We foretell on 2 every single time. We have, let's see, 4, 8, 11. I guess technically this is foretold as well. 13, 17? Is it just 17? Yeah, we have 17 Fortell cards. So hopefully we will have Fortell every turn. But let's go ahead and start here. We have 4 Absorbs. Absorb, even though we're playing Saw It Coming, Absorb is still like the premier counterspell. It counters the spell and it gains us 3 life. So against aggro, we can kind of accept the fact that we played nothing on turn 2 a little bit easier. 3 Narset, Part of the Veils. We want to stop other control players from drawing anything. And of course, being able to get something that we might need off of her -2 ability is top notch. 3 Nico Defies Destiny. I wanted to try this this card out because, like, if the idea is on turn 2, right, we foretell a card, And then on turn 3, we play Nico. Like, we're not doing anything, but we are setting up for the future. We're gaining 2 life, stymieing a little bit of that aggression from our opponent. And then on turn 4, we get to have that extra mana, so we can either foretell another card, or we can more easily cast a card that we have that has been foretold. So, for example, like, we could then play a Cosmos Charger for only 1 mana during our turn, obviously, but whatever. And then we can foretell cards during our opponent's turn with the extra mana we have. Like, this is turn 4, we should have 4 mana. We use only one of our actual mana to cast the Cosmos Charger, and then we can theoretically foretell 3 more cards, or we can foretell 1 card at the end of our turn, and then during our opponent's turn, we can go ahead and cast nothing, because we have nothing that costs 2. Shut up. And then, of course, the last one is we get to return a card with Fortell from our graveyard to your hand. So if we use something, if this is later in the game, then we can grab, a Doomscar or whatever back. And what's nice is that we don't have to, like, re-foretell that card. Like, if we really need a board wipe and we've already used Doomscar, we just get it back and use it, right? We have 3 So Outcoming. It's the Fortell counterspell. It's a counterspell with Fortell. We have 4 Behold the Multiverse. It is a draw spell. Scry 2, draw 2. Has Fortell. Fun fact. Then we have Cosmos Charger. We only have 3 of these. I've seen other Fortell decks that are control decks use this. I'm a little wary of having any creatures, but we have this. It has Flash, which is nice. It has Flying, which is nice. And it does make our foretelling both cheaper and Flash speed. Instant speed, I should say. So I figure it's probably worth at least trying out. I could be super wrong, but who knows. Then we have 2 Starnheim Unleashed. I figured maybe this can be a good control finisher. I might be wrong. Maybe it's a fine control finisher. I guess, like, another thing is that if I foretell this on turn 2 and then play this on turn 3, on turn 4, I can, let's see, on turn 4, be this. So let's say I have 4 mana, I have 6 total mana. So I can X equals 2 on this and have 1 mana left over. I'm only getting 2 angels. I mean, 2 angels on turn 4 might not be terrible, though. Although it did require setup. I don't know. Who cares? Then we, of course, have 4 Doomscar. It's a board wipe that foretells. That's about it. 3 Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. We're playing an Azorius control deck. We're running 5 mana Teferi. Like, just point blank. This allows us to foretell a card on our turn and then hold up extra mana, potentially. If we have Cosmos Charger out, this allows us to foretell even more. So it just seems like an obvious card. And we have 4 Shark Typhoon. I figure the cycle might help us in some scenarios, but also just like, we only have 3 creatures. We're going to potentially be able to get some really dumb stuff out of the Shark Typhoon enchantment. Our mana base is pretty typical, I think. We got, the full 4 Glacial Fortress, the full 4 Hallowed Fountain, 2 Irrigated Farmland, just as a little bit extra cycle. Only 1 Castle Vantress because we're also introducing 3 Gates of Istfell. It enters tapped, which is potentially an issue. However, we don't have anything to do on turn 1. And we technically don't have anything to do on turn 2. So, and then, of course, we get to sack it, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards. Seems pretty decent. If we don't need to counter something, if we don't need to foretell something on our opponent's turn, or cast something with foretell on our opponent's turn, then, we just gain life and draw cards. What's not to love? The sideboard, also very simple, I think. We have 4 Dovin's Veto against opposing control decks or combo decks, 3 Rest in Peace against the graveyard decks, 2 Weathered Runestones against graveyard as well as just like shenanigan decks, 3 Mystical Disputes, more counterspells against control because counters never hurt, and then 3 Raven Form. This is just like probably great removal. Like a 1/1 over time can kill a control deck, but a 1/1 probably not going to kill a control deck nearly as much as a, I don't know, Questing Beast or a what is the Forgotten Sanctuary? What the Forgotten Statue? The freaking annoying the annoying, what the is that card called? Artifact card. I guess I could have had artifact removal in here with some disenchants or something. Psych, I have Raven Form. I meant I could have had enchant removal. Yeah. It's possible I should have, like, 2 enchant removal in here. The counterspells generally will cover it. But yeah, it's possible I should like run 1 fewer Dovin's Veto, 1 fewer Mystical Dispute, and run like 2 Disenchants. Something relatively simple like that. But yeah, the Raven form has Fortell, and you just get to remove something completely. This card is bonkers, and I expect it to be pretty decent. So yes, those are 3 more decks. Obviously, I think that the Control Foretold is the most powerful, because we had like a reasonable base already. The Demon Deals combo has the most potential for being fun, and the White Weenies has potential. I just don't know how to make decks properly. Anyway, I would like to thank my... Psych! I would like to say that I have a P.O. box, and hope you send me things so I can open them on camera. Now I'd like to thank my patrons, especially Fogwin, Malik, and Balater for their continued support. If you'd like to join them and support the show, you'll find links in the description. I hope, of course, you've enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I will be one.